Quaid Azam, part 170. Well, dear audience, what I want to make it clear to all of you, the Muslims in India have never been the separatist. They had the noble cause of uniting India. They had the noble cause of uniting India right from the beginning. In fact, it were the Muslims in the form of Delhi Sultanate who brought unity to India. It were the Muslims in the form of Mughal Empire who brought unity to India. India has always been shattered before the Muslims came over here. And Muslims did not wage a war against one single emperor to rule the country, to invade the country, to conquer the country. In fact, it was not even a country. There was no name to this country before the Muslims came over here. There was no name to this nation before the Muslims came over here. There was no name to the religion before the Muslims came over here. The name of Hinduism was given to this religion only in the 19th century, when this religion is thousands of years old. The name was provided by the British writers. Does it make some sense? Whatever I'm saying, why don't you go and confirm it in the history pages? It is there in the history pages, in fact, crying for you, giving you everything. Now, I hope you can understand it as well. When the Muslims were here, they always had the noble cause of uniting India, and this is what they had been doing all throughout their lives. In fact, they were a global factor. They were the global champions. There was Ottoman Empire, and before that there were Abbasid Empire, before that there were Umayyad Empire. Muslims were in fact the global factor, global champions, global character. Why would they segregate themselves in India? They would naturally become a part of the global Muslim empire, and India would be a part of it. Well, what actually has happened over there after 1857? The colonial imperialists themselves were the separatist, and what they did, they in fact tried to separate the Muslims over there. They in fact developed those strategies, those policies which separated Muslims. Now, the mutiny was started by the Hindu Sipahis, and it's a good cause, it's a noble cause. I respect all those Hindu Sipahi who started this noble cause. But all the blame was thrown on the Muslims. Their properties was confiscated, their houses were burned, and their memoirs were ablazed, their agricultural lands were confiscated, and there were sentences, judicial sentences against the Muslims. The whole of the community was barred from state jobs. Come on, does it make some sense? Such economic deprivation in India. All the state jobs were simply barred for the Muslims. No jobs for the Muslims. The jobs are only for Hindus and the others. Come on, does it make any sense? But this is what the separatists have been there, and this is what they have been doing for years and years and years. Now, the British are the real separatists. And of course, the British were the separatists, and then I gave you another example of the Indian government. Well, when I talk about the Indian government, this is what has happened after 1947. Let me share some of the other examples of those days, talk about the 19th century and 20th century. First of all, the British imperialists, they are the separatists. Next, those conservative congressional leaders, of course we do have we have three fabrics in Indian National Congress. The first one is that of the conservative fabric of the Indian National Congress leaders, and they were of course the pro-crown, and they always spoke in favor of the crown. They always showed their allegiance in favor of the crown, and next there were the moderates, and then of course there were the protesters under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi. So what actually happened with these congressional leaders? They were not trustworthy. Even if you go and talk to Vallabhbhai Patel, talk about Nehru, Motilal Nehru, talk about Jawaharlal Nehru, or any of the other congressional leaders, they were not trustworthy. In 1916, they signed Lucknow Pact. They said, well, the Muslims, you can have your separate electorates, you can have one-third representation in the center. And then after a few years, the same leaders, I'm not talking about the next generation, the same leaders came along with the Nehru report, and they said no separate electorate, no representation in the center. Does it make any sense? When you cannot be trusted, you are trustless people, you're not trustworthy. How can we believe in you, and how can we give you the reins of the government, and you would have been exploiting our children, our grandchildren, our great grandchildren, since you are trustless people, not trustworthy at all.